Started. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Brione Davis DeVell, and if you are joining me for the first time, hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot to do. I know there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, a lot of people that are scared. There's a lot of people who don't even know what's going on, which is surprising to me. I think what we can learn from what is happening right now in the world is that we've strayed away from community and connection and listening. And for me, with everything that's happening, feeling like there's nothing that I can do about a lot of certain things, and I'll be prepared when I need to take action, and that's the important part. For me, the gift of storytelling and art is always that's my foundation and my ground place. I wrote this article on Substack, and I'm going to read it for you, and you can turn it off and just listen to the sound if you want, but I'm letting you know that there is something that you can feel, and it is joy, which is the highest vibration that the human can experience. Joy is the highest emotion, the word for that expresses the highest emotion of bliss, closest thing to heaven that we can experience. And we can choose to experience that in every moment of our life, even when something that is not what we want. And I know that's hard to hear sometimes because there's so much tragedy in the world. But when we are experiencing the world from the vibration of joy, and we're choosing joy in every moment that we explore life, and we're curious about other people, and we listen to other people, and then we discover so much about ourselves. And if we're open, we see all the possibility. Maybe the question is, what have I been experiencing? Is that the truth? Joy is the truth. We always have the opportunity to choose joy. So that's always a possibility. Here we go. So the gift of life, the moment of deep compassion, empathy, love, joy, celebrated, personally felt joy that only comes from someone else's win, the desire to contribute creatively to a job that we enjoy for various reasons personal to each of us, to leave that job every single day and know that you felt something special, and you've left that job and you've done it with pride. You've taken your work and you value your life in that work. People like to work. They contribute, and they feel as though they've generated something of value. And then there's that sparkle of meeting someone, meeting friends out for happy hour after work, and shared random bursts of laughter and smiles, the inside jokes between or wordless glances that emerge in a quiet understanding, grounding us in the awe of our humanity. To look into the eyes of a lover and feel deeply the understanding of what being in love really means. To honor someone in a way that seems wonderfully terrifying. The vulnerability to love that deeply and know that in a moment it can go away. A piece of ego removed from your armored shell so that that moment can be felt without a single word to describe it. And you willingly, with surprise of personal courage, recognize it for the first time in this life. To walk into a home that you've worked so incredibly hard to earn. And you've earned that through much of the aforementioned experiences above. As you enter a familiar smell, that of joy, comfort, safety, and even pride, the embrace of children as they run towards you with the arms open wide, and the kiss that partner as you or they enter. And for some, a dog or a cat excited to see you, and the joy they bring with the cold noses and waggy tails. Even the annoying parts, bills to pay, the farts, the snores, the diapers, the rainy day walks, and the mud on the carpet. The call that informs you that something awful has happened to someone you care about. The depth of feeling, there's nowhere to turn, unable to adapt to some information that in the moment seems unimaginably embraceable. The darkest of those must be the loss of a child. I don't even have children. I have compassion and I have imagination. I can use my imagination to dive into what that must possibly feel like, and I don't think I ever could grasp. I have nieces and nephews, students, and friends who have children. That actual pain, from my perspective, would absolutely be inconceivable. I don't know how I would move beyond that. Where would a person have the strength to feel that? The awe and wonder of nature to be stopped in motion by the view of a sunset that takes you altogether by surprise, the difference paid to Mother Nature's whims, beauty, magic, and tragedy. All of these experiences give us character. These experiences build us into leaders and poets. They are all, even the bad things, part of the joy of living. They are what it is to be human. Seeing only images of the Eiffel Tower for 30 years and pages of images of this monstrosity of a structure could never prepared me for the tears and the deep breaths the inability to comprehend the Eiffel Tower when I first saw it for the first time. And then I released into some sense of awe and wonder. And then still deeper, people who walk for peace in quiet expressions of love source. This is why the responsibility of observing character, and this is the important part of what I'm trying to say here. And this has been flawed since more than 10 years ago, because those of us who understand character saw who this person was. And these people that do not have us in the best interest. And those who have voted for this not knowing character. And that's why this is so important to understand character. Not an ideology, looking at actions. Character matters. And it's our obligation to ask those questions. The answers are in their actions, and they're reflected in their environments. They're reflected in their relationships. Really evaluating, does a person with whom we trust our lives and planet have ownership of these experiences that I mentioned before? Because most of us do. Most of us can feel that. Most of us can put ourselves in the shoes of another and just ask the question, regardless of what I've been told. If I've been told to hate another person by someone, and usually that someone is a person of authority, a person of means, and they're going to tell you that you got to hate another group of people that are just your peers, they are your mutuals. You got to ask yourself, and I'll ask the question again. Does a person with whom we trust our lives and planet and our children have ownership of these experiences? Can they feel? Can they relate? From lovers to friends to bosses to presidents. The laws we have created have been built by those who have shared those experiences that I mentioned. No, not all have been good. Progress has been made and a lot of things have been ignored. And we get to acknowledge and heal. We get to acknowledge what has happened in our past. We are witnessing this now, the not just, the injustice, the corruption that takes place when people have too much and others have too little. Our eyes are open to how long this power dynamic, this power, and those in power have abused it. The wisdom of a Black woman can tell you that, and I will say it is my opinion, for sure, that the leadership and wisdom right now, Black women, there was a quote in 2020, I believe, and it was by a Republican representative, I think, in Georgia. And he said the following, and it was Gabriel Sterling. Go look it up. It says, someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get, and it was a warning. A Republican representative in Georgia made the announcement, and that was in December of 2020, because the rhetoric, and this is just a month before January 6th. How far have we come from that warning? Look how far that warning, how one man can escape accountability and do what he's done, leaving in their wake a tragedy to fall on so many lives across the planet. Yes, he himself has done unimaginable things to thousands, if not millions and counting, lives over many decades. I won't mention any of them here. If you don't know, it's easily discoverable. The important thing is to see the lack of representation of all examples I mentioned above in others, not just those who represent us, but in your relationships, in business, in your family, in your significant other. You must be able to identify character and create a communication pattern in which you hold them and yourself accountable. If they don't have dogs and they don't have cats and they don't have a cuddly friend, if their children are opportunistic and trained by the same legacy of abuse, then you need to acknowledge that. And that is what we're seeing. These kinds of people have no close friends. Everything and every encounter is a transaction, bought and manipulated for favor, and inauthentic show of relation. A show put on, illustrated show of relation. One of 3 wives is buried in an unmarked grave on a golf course. Another finding her way, I don't know much about her, through healthy living and spiritual journey, I assume, I have no idea. And then the last struggles reluctant through relevance. And the last struggles reluctant through relevance and is obviously contracted to show up in one way or another to pretend that she cares, while her clothes literally state otherwise. A $40 million payout in the disguise of a documentary from one of the world's richest men. He cheated on all of them. All of them. Closeness of pals are all criminals, and his homes are showboats of insecurities. They do not know the struggles and prices that are paid by our soldiers, our veterans. yet joyfully send them into harm's way. This has been the story throughout human history. It means nothing to a draft dodger and the egoic sociopathy of the privileged. This dismantling of USAID, stopping environmental protections, deregulations, turning nature into golf courses, destroying the East Wing, waging unnecessary wars and avoiding the essay accusations. The list goes on. He cannot appreciate the planet. The magic of nature and the fact that Mother Nature creates prompts him to hate her even more. And this I will read again. The magic of nature and the fact that Mother Nature creates prompts him to hate her even more. He's not human. He does not care. He doesn't care for anyone. He can't feel things. He can't feel the things that we feel. He's never experienced the things that I mentioned above, the joy, the yearning to walk in and see your significant other, the appreciation of a dog wagging their tail as they lick your face and greet you. He has no joy. He has no joy. And he lives in that vibration of rage and jealousy, and those are low vibrational. He has no joy, and his humor rests in mocking of others. And he is surrounded by the same, those lurking in the background waiting for their turn. This is where you, me, and us come in. We must learn to question, observe, and be witness to, courageously look beyond the words to question. If the humanity in ourselves is present in those we entrust with power, to go deeper and ask if the shame and the hate we feel within ourselves is exposed in the actions of those with whom we entrust our lives, our children, and our planet. This is not just him. It is all of those who did not prevent this from happening. And that goes for the Dems too. Yes, lack of leadership, decades-long acquiescence. Those with character are revealed if you look, and they have records that show this has been available. Often those who threaten the status quo are pushed aside or else demonized by those in power. Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Reverend Jasmine Crockett, and MLK as an example of those who were speaking truth to power in a way and are in the authentic, true characters of leadership. And their actions show it over and over again. These are the leaders with a track record to appreciate, and they say the things, they act, their actions match what they say, and they are pushed aside by the establishment. The responsibility rests on all of us. It resides on all sides of the political and social and economical and spiritual and environmental structure of our existence. It rests on us. This obligation, we must wear it and joyfully embrace in that obligation. The joyful embrace of that obligation is yet another human experience that we are being called to endure, to overcome, and to celebrate this life that we have, and the unity and companionship and the compassion and empathy that we can build and grow stronger through this. We have the information now. We must acknowledge, for the sake of our soldiers, our children, our planet, we must continue to ask the question. We can't just look at the letter by their name. Even then, we have proven ourselves disappointed. John Fetterman, Kristen Sinema, Merrick Garland, Pelosi, and Schumer, and others have betrayed the public. I'm not calling them bad people. I think that they are just not aware, and they are also in a bind because of their compliance in the status quo. We're not them. And yes, Biden did many great things for which I am very grateful, but this administration, along with the DOJ, slow walked the trials and inevitably weren't up to the task. Biden, his status quo, paired with his age, was not privy to the degree in which he needed to be to the danger that lie ahead. He should have never ran a second term. Yeah, here we go. He should have never ran a second term, and we should have had fully immersed in Democrat primaries. Yes, that is what should have done, and I know that that was a failure. I agreed at the time, and still, I think she ran in the short time that she had a good campaign. The call to action was soft, and if they didn't see it then, they need to be removed from their leadership, and I'm talking about the status quo established Democrats. We've got to look into, we can't just look at the D, and it is no longer, you've got to hold them to account. We have time to hold each one of these people to account, and if we can't hold them to account, or if they do something that is not in alignment with the values of this country, to protect us, all of us, then we must replace them. And I'm talking progressives, people who want to progress. We need to replace them with people who know and value character, that can see further beyond their pocketbook. Many of us were saying this at the time. They didn't listen to the progressives. Harris campaigned with Cheney. Bad optics. She should have had Sanders. And she was running a good campaign before that. But then after that, she Like how? What? Why? Moving on. Sanders and AOC. She should have ran with them. Anyway, the dim establishment is, I dare say, partially responsible. I'd even go so far as to say fully responsible, and it really depends on how you look at it. If I was in that situation, and this is where our own acknowledgement and our own responsibility come to play. How am I responsible for this? And you got to ask that question because that's the result. Yet nowhere in the course of U.S. history would I imagine, and there's been a lot of terrible things, but the betrayal that we've witnessed, as we've seen by the current Republican Party, the deliberate incompetence, the hate, the division, the lies, the compliance to something so incredibly vile, abandon of progress, destruction, the oppression listed in the P sells us out to a destructive future where no Einsteins, Alan Turings, Michael B. Jordans, Helen Kellers, Toni Morrisons, James Baldwins, Frida Kahlos, Lily Tomlins, and the like. None of those brilliant, and that's just some people that I thought off the top of my head. None of those people could have emerged from what is happening now. Now, they emerged from other difficulties and struggles, but there are people that are in danger right now that could be representing someone like this. Without messengers like Stephen Colbert, we will be worse off. They'll be traded for mediocrity, nepotism, white privilege, Christian nationalism, Laura Trump concerts for everyone. Woohoo. And a wake of horror to be felt for generations. Additionally, the ones we must fervently oppose are the ones in leadership who did not have the presence of mind, and this is the point of the whole thing, the presence of mind to understand or see the lack of character from the beginning. And that goes for many of you, that you can't see character. You don't ask the questions and you look at the actions. You look at the results. You have to look at the results and their behavior. Those who couldn't see the lack of character from the beginning, those who seem to now oppose him, these are the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Tucker Carlsons, and anyone who ever supported Orange Man in the past. These are not genuine actors of integrity. I'm telling you, they supported it. Almost $1 billion lawsuit because of the things that Tucker Carlson was allowing to have happen. And then the character. And I think it's crazy because now I'm starting to think, yeah, maybe Jewish space lasers was a thing. I mean, that's the kind of insanity. Anyway, intelligence and integrity, no character when they see it. These are opportunistic narcissists who rest in their privilege and have a history of, we'll just call it bad judgment. Their past must be taken into consideration just as the current POTUS past should have been taken into consideration from the beginning. A character and a con man will always be just that. And good leadership knows that. Good leadership knows character and can see the lack of it in others and is not transactional. Well, he's a bad person, but, well, it's going to get our jobs done. No, that's not how it works. Good leadership is good leadership, and good leadership acknowledges when they are wrong. Anyway, cheers, everyone. That is my 2 cents for today. Sending you love. Happy Friday.